Good evening. My name is Joe Sam Robinson. It's my pleasure to have with us once again Mr. Harry Gross, who is Chief of Research at the Georgia Neurosurgical Institute and avowed Democrat. So we'll just start by saying that. Pretty much he marched in lockstep with some of the ideas the Democratic Party has, which is quite reasonable. We have a country with many diverse views and different opinions, and it's good to hear some from Harry's world. Many of them are quite reasonable, I would say. And we've talked a lot about President Trump and some of the issues that are going on. And actually, that's quite important. We often sort of go through life just whistling or whatever to ourselves as we walk along and not paying so much attention to events that are underway. But this really powerful, extraordinary things are happening, particularly in President Trump's 100 first days, which certainly parallel in many ways any president's first 100 days. I think Franklin Roosevelt's 100 days certainly comes to mind as the extraordinary changes that happened then. Now, a lot of the things that are happening there's such a great number of them, it's difficult to keep track of every one. But there are some big themes, I think, that are underway. And one of them is that he's, I think, a couple of points. Point number one is many of his policies are happening because of presidential directives, and they're not going through Congress. So really, surprisingly few laws have happened. I think that's one issue. And the other, I think, thing of consequence is that many of these directives are taking place on an emergency basis. And I think the country has seen this in a wartime arrangement. So if you're in World War II, the government and the executive particularly, just has to really abridge many things that are, we would imagine, are sacred. And we can think about World War II with Japanese, putting the Japanese citizens in camps. And we can also think about President Lincoln and the Civil War, not paying any attention to habeas corpus requirements, and these things happen in that setting. However, it's unusual these things are taking place as they are right now. Now, one of the things that should happen is the courts kind of keep an eye on our tripartite government, which is founded in the Constitution and really is central to American identity and a sense of nationhood, the Constitution. It's a very strong document with ways allegedly to improve it. So the founding fathers recognized that you could amend the Constitution if it did not comport with contemporary traditions. And actually the country's been around since 1776 for just about 250 years. It's been around a long time, and reasonably things have happened and new amendments have been put in. But having said that, the courts have a traditional job of making sure that there's not an executive overreach or, as far as that goes, a congressional overreach in violating the Constitution. So one of the things going on, I'll now ask your thoughts on this, Harry. One of the things going on now is these executive orders are being challenged repeatedly in the courts. And the courts have said, no, you can't do this. And there's been substantial backlash from President Trump. Now, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts?
I think part of it is that Trump doesn't actually know what's going on. For example, the Supreme Court directive that the government is supposed to facilitate the return of Albrego Garcia from El Salvador, this guy who was wrongfully deported. The government admitted it was a mistake, all of this stuff, and is now fighting tooth and nail to keep him there. Every conversation that has been had with the president, including an interview he recently did with Time Magazine about that, he seems to think that the court ruled in his favor. and no one, it seems in his circle, is telling him the reality of this. I don't actually think, to his credit, I don't think he's actually willfully ignoring the Supreme Court on this one. I think he has surrounded himself with yes men who do not have an interest in obeying the court and do wish to challenge the court. I think we're going to see a push and pull here as the courts start trying to rein back in some executive power. And I think issues that Trump himself personally will be willing to relent on, his advisors and his more extreme people in his cabinet are going to be the ones pulling the strings to force a confrontation.
Well, now that's the point, isn't it? And so presumably one of the things that happens when you're the new president, one of your most important tasks is to put your cabinet members in, and then a whole host of lesser positions are filled by the president, and that's extremely important. And I think it's fair to say the Democratic Party does. They often, it's reasonable to think that there are not too many conservatives that are in there, and the advice that takes place and is not always perfect on either side. I would say that, but I think it's an important thought that particularly a person with President Trump's inclinations needs people around to, on occasion, put the brakes on what's going on, or at least offer another opinion. And I think rather deliberately, he's put people in in these higher positions around him that share his viewpoints, to put it politely on that. So you wouldn't have a job if you didn't comport with his thoughts. A lot of this is like, do you watch TV much, Harry?
Sort of.
Now, I believe he had a show called The Apprentice.
Yes, he did.
Did you ever watch that much?
No, I'm not really much of a fan of reality
TV. Not one of your favorites.
No.
Probably something more intellectual, maybe.
A little bit. I love the Netflix series Dirty Money that's about financial crimes, which covered the way The Apprentice shaped Donald Trump's public image to cover up some of his lack of financial acumen.
Wasting your time on television is a big mistake. I'll let it go. I tricked you into saying you watch television. Maybe our viewers feel the same way. But just to continue, it is impressive that I watched The Apprentice once, maybe slightly. And the idea is that the president is this extraordinary, powerful, in this TV show, this extremely powerful person with bags of money. And the apprentice would arrive and genuflect really with the thoughts that they could maybe get some of that money, and that whatever it took to do that. And maybe a similar event takes place in getting a position of power, which in the end can lead to mammalian dominance and money. So if you're, I don't know, the former, shall we say, Secretary of Commerce or some such position, later in your career, you'll be ratcheted up a lot by having that powerful position, particularly with lawyers. But in any event, it is impressive that particular event has occurred. And I'm reminded of what happened in his first term. And there was obviously a lot of problems with his advisors. Many of them were very, I'd say, stiff-faced military people, Marine Corps generals, or really people with great rectitude. And a big number of them, and the inevitable falling out occurred. And the assumption would be that they objected to some of President Trump's ideas. And this time around, I think it's noteworthy that the whole cabinet members, everyone there shares his opinions pretty much. No one's been fired yet, even though they've made some mistakes. But that, I think that's a correct thought about why this might be happening. Now, in regards to the Gonzalez, did I get that right?
Garcia.
So the person that is in El Salvador prison right now, back in his native country. I believe that's a rather complicated story, and that might be an example of one of the things that's going on with President Trump and his relationships with the courts. That there are, pick your number, some extraordinary number of people that you could say were illegally here.
Yes.
Maybe
about 15 million.
Or 20 or
No,
whatever.
it's between 13 and 15 million.
I mean, I would say
It's the actual number. I actually was.
I know
looking at this
it'd be
yesterday, so
written
it's-
there. I know it's written somewhere like that. It's
Yes.
written there somewhere like that. But I believe finding there may be some plus minus on the number.
That's why the range is 13 to 15, somewhere between there. It's about 2 million
I won't
minus that
quibble
point.
about it. It's a
Half
big
of
number.
them did not even enter this country illegally. Half of them overstayed their visas coming here legally.
So that would be a big.
And even then, within the criminality of this, it is only a crime to cross illegally the United States or to overstay your visa, and that's a civil misdemeanor that has a statute of limitations of 5 years. If you are not caught, let's say within 5 years, it is not a prosecutable offense.
Well, I mean, I won't go so much into that conversation. I just make the case that it's so difficult to actually understand what the number is. It's a big number. I think we can both agree on that. It's a big number. How the numbers change is another big number. What happens with reproduction if you're here, illegal families, also some of the arrangements. So there's an extraordinary demographic change that's happening in the country, referable to the immigration policies, and I would say the ease of transportation to get here, pretty much, and the fact there's such a disparity between human conditions among the 8 billion people here.
I would say it's not particularly easy to get here. The journey from Central America to the southern border is quite arduous.
If you came by airplane, it's another matter.
Yeah, if you came by, which is about half of them got here, yes.
There are other ways to get here. So some people have trekked for lots of miles. But nevertheless, I think it's fair to say that if you were trying to get here from somewhere in the past, just the distance issues would be so vexing that would be very hard. And so in any event, I'm just saying that's the nature of the problem. And then President Trump's solution for this, for the large number of people, whatever the number is, and I'll just say it's a big number. I think you'll agree. I'm not sure what the number is, but it's a big number. It's all right, those people have to go, and he ran on the campaign to do that. Well, anyone could say that's just going to be so difficult. If you went in and you found 100 people, a de minimis number, and you identified them and then got them out of the country, that would be very difficult. And it's kind of like what seeming to me his policy is, well, I'm going to just make an example of anyone that's around. I'm going to do something horrendous to them and get them out of the country. And not only will I do that, I'll make it a horrible experience for them. And there's actually the relationship between the president of El Salvador, the big, huge prison, and sending people there, it's certainly, to a casual person, it seems a rather barbaric situation. And so I'm going to sort of I'm getting to this point, and then I'm going to sort of get to the judicial arrangements. So it's a rather long story. But President Trump is going to do whatever he can to, I think, frighten people, stop anyone from coming in, as he's, I think, has done from the southern border. I don't know about overstaying your visa, which is a huge number of people coming in, but I'll let it go at that. So that would be part of his policy. And I think what's said is the people that are here, and he uses a series of pretty rough words. It's not like these are bad people, but these are child rapists, molesters of all type, insane people, mentally deranged.
He has consistently confused mental asylums with political asylum. Yes,
right. So there's a big list of problems that are here, and so and then I think the question would be asked: assuming that the preponderant number of these big numbers, whether it's 15 million or 20 or 5 or whatever, huge numbers of people, a rather minority of them are not killing people. There are some, but that's mostly what's discussed. I think that's fair to say.
Well, even if we took the 20 million number, the latest claim by the administration is 700,000 of them have criminal records. 1/3 of all American citizens have criminal records. So even if it were true that there were 20 million, there were 700,000 with criminal records, that's still a far better percentage of law-abiding people
the joke is
than American
President
citizens.
Trump may wish to export the people that are American citizens. That's another story. But
Well, there we can get back to the courts with that one.
Right. Well, we can just discuss that a little bit. So, okay, the question that comes up, and this is maybe a legal issue as well, what is it that mandates just putting you out of the country? I mean, just the fact that you're here illegally, is that give the government the right to get you out of the country? And presumably it would. And I don't think if you've committed a crime, that I'm not sure of that whole story. So these are the poster people for the immigration issue. So, and you could also take that into sort of hardwired genetic issues. So people of European descent, whatever, with everything else being equal, the way the brain works is, well, I want more people that look like me here, or speak like me, or whatever, or go to my church, or whatever the story is. And so people that are outsiders that are like that, the emotional predisposition would be, well, I want those people out of the country, particularly so if they can be established as horrible people. Well, the government might be trying to do this, and the question comes up, all right, you've been discovered as being here illegally, and you've made the case, which is another point. A lot of this is based on legalities, and if you are here illegally, there is some protocol that's there, and the question would be, how and when was the protocol put in, and who put it in, or to deal with this issue?
So the protocol has largely been, as far as I know, it's been altered a few times over the past decades, but was largely set into the Reagan administration.
So who set it in? How?
It would be the Republicans. It would be Congress.
I know that. So is this a congressional, just to ask the question?
Yes. So
here's some important points. Point number one, and I think this is based on the experience in World War II, or before World War II, particularly with Jewish immigrants attempting to come in and the doors being closed, and then they didn't go to gas chambers. And so there's obviously something amiss there. And from that experience, presumably, unlike many countries, many other countries, you can come to the U.S. if you, and maybe you can expand this comment, if you are, your life is threatened by anyone, and that a gang might be threatening you, or maybe economic situation. I'm starving, I can't get enough food, and therefore I have a right to come to the country. And the number of people that make that claim are far past the number of legal immigrants that come in. And even the legal immigrants, it's a pretty porous barrier. So many people can come in just legally. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to get in.
Wow.
And it may be some delay, but you can make it in.
There's
about
quite
a million
delay.
A year, I think. Well,
Yeah.
about 1 million people a year are coming in legally. That's a big number compared with any country you'd like to pick. And this regulation that's now presumably, is this a law or a regulation saying that anyone can come to the country, into the U.S., if they can say they feel threatened, either by economics or gangs or war or communism, as far as that goes. I mean, if you're a refugee from a communist state, dare I say a
specifically
socialist one.
Cuba and Romania are the only two actually on the book for which we have that specific
That's
exemption.
interesting,
Yes.
isn't it? What about Haiti, which has a
Haiti
terrible...
is covered under a different law.
I know that.
Yeah.
But the Haitian, maybe there's special ways, as I understand it, that people can come in, and I think in Haiti, well, it's obviously a terrible place. The police are non-existent. There's gang warfare underway. There's no money, so it's obviously a very unpleasant place to live. And if everyone in Haiti, and I don't know how many people have immigrated, but pretty much anybody, if that's the law, could come into the country. I just question what exactly is the law, and then how, and the enforcement arrangements that are there. I don't know what that is exactly, but apparently there are immigration judges, not enough of them. So it's almost impossible. I think you're here. I want to claim asylum. And I'm whatever. I'm claiming asylum. I'm a special person. I live in Cuba. Nobody's bothering me there, but the food is terrible. I haven't had a good hamburger in months. Whatever. And of course, it's a communist country. They're not doing anything to me particularly, but I don't like it here. I want to rock and roll or whatever. And great, you can come here because I think there's special people. Maybe you mentioned Romania, special people. They can get in. And then, so also maybe people that are from places where the U.S. has been and they feel threatened by the new regime. I think Afghanistan and Vietnam are there. And so millions of people have come from that way. Many doors to get into the country. Special arrangements. I wonder the legal underpinning for that as to what the situation is.
I don't remember exactly the law, but it was passed I think it's something Refugee Act. It's passed, I want to say under Nixon, that set the rules for most of international asylum and refugee claims. Under the Reagan administration, that was then all kind of readjusted and codified when the southern border was closed. Because before then it had been very porous, largely based on work programs to allow for seasonal labor to pass through.
I think particularly in World War II, the idea, and Dwight D. Eisenhower sent everyone back. They had a special way you could come as a worker, which the country needed in World War II. So many Mexicans came, and Dwight Eisenhower basically exported them, so to speak.
Yes, then we just kicked them all back out again. The immigration system has largely been under flux. The way it stands now, there are 4 ways to enter this country legally. You apply for a green card just in any given year. You just can apply for permanent residency in the United States. That takes a very long time because every country gets the same percentage of green cards. So Mexico gets the same number of green card applicants as China, as El Salvador, as Ghana. As of 2019, we were still processing green card applications from 1998. For Mexico. So I said that's a very, very, very long line.
But so many people work illegally, or with forged whatever they work.
Which is part of one of the reasons for that, because that line is so long because there's not enough staff to process that.
These millions of people are a big number, and so what I'm finally getting into is the regulations by which they've arrived are quite confused, and no one really Republicans as well. Many people are, arch Republicans, and they employ laborers, and they just have to have those laborers there. And I would say, this is a rather true statement, is that if a person has a green card, they're here, then their wages they're receiving have increased a lot recently. So they're becoming very expensive to employ. People that do not have green cards are paid much less money, but it's not deductible. So they can't easily deduct it as an expense, so they get into there are all these complexities, but a huge number of people are in that situation. So we have, I'm sort of circling a lot to get back to the point, is that there are so many people that are here, how they... the process by which we run our immigration system is just nuts. It really is. It really is.
Fundamentally, we don't have enough people in the immigration system.
And the question
There's about 51 courts in the entire country to hear these millions of cases. For asylum claims, which is what the largest percentage of legal immigration is, you have to wait for, you're entitled to a court hearing to basically say, hey, you have to show up to a U.S. port of entry because you can't apply for asylum from your home country because the point is it's too dangerous to be there. And you say, hey, I'm fleeing political persecution. That's nuts, I'm fleeing. If for a while there was domestic violence was an acceptable asylum category, that was ended by the first Trump administration. Gang violence was also, I think, ended by the first administration. There are a few other exceptions, like for natural disasters where you get temporary protective status. TPS usually covers a lot of Haitians. But you come to the border, you have to claim these rights, and then you are basically given a court date and said, hey, show up,
And of course, no one
and then
would.
supervised release. And that court date might be 5 years down the road.
And
It
of
might
course,
be
there's
6
absolutely
months.
no, and you just disappear into the country. And
Yes, the Biden administration created a process through which, building on the first Trump administration's policies, where most asylum seekers stayed on the other side of the border and had an app they had to use to check in
Right.
for an appointment with an immigration official, where basically they were, okay, what are you actually doing here? Is this clearly a false case and we can just go ahead and just kick you out right now? Is this a case that's worth even making it to the docket? That worked pretty well at cutting down a lot of illegal entries. That app was killed day one of the second Trump administration. And so now there's that process of trying to facilitate people into the country has been.
And so people, and right
rocked.
now, I mean, I'm sort of circling a lot, but we'll get back to the judge part of it. But the deal is people can cross the border, and now they're not. And the question is, well, why not? And some of it is that what Trump is up to, I think, and sending people to prisons or doing whatever, or a lot of these very lurid government events where people are being arrested and whatever, and actually a relatively small number, thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of people are here. They're clustered and in Macon, Georgia. It's quite usual to hear anyone that's working hard out in the sun speaking Spanish. I think that's a fair statement. You're walking around, I mean, it's really anyone that's laboring intensely here. There's an extraordinary chance that they're here.
The United States is the largest Spanish-speaking country in the world.
Right.
And in terms of number of native Spanish speakers. But that in itself is not indicative of immigration
status. I won't
status.
overkill it, but I would imagine that a substantial number of people that are out are here with questionable reasons. I mean, and they're very productive. I see many Hispanic patients, many of them. And so what happens in hospital, many people arrive that are Latin people, and they go to work in often dangerous occupations. One thing I might mention on television is I've seen over the past year, I've seen four Hispanic people that were here, rather nice people, working as roofers. And 4 of them have fallen off roofs and been paralyzed. 4 in the course of a year in this area. And they're doing very dangerous work. How did you get the job? Well, I have to work. And so people just say, get up on the roof and do whatever. So all kinds of things like that are happening. And when they come to the hospital, no one ever checks on their immigration status. I believe that's illegal.
Yes.
So anybody that's here, and as far as hospital issues, there's no compensation for the hospital. And so it has a financial impact. Many people are in that situation, but the point is we've got these thousands of people here. You could, in my opinion, the legal structure that we have is quite flawed, and it's flawed on both sides. I mean, I would say the Democratic Party, I'll say they have a natural sympathy for people that are in a bad situation in the world, and at least the thought would be that people would be a natural constituency for their party. But many people would say no. But
the largest swing voting bloc for Trump this election was Hispanic men.
That's right. And the question is, however, the other point would be, in general, people on lower economic arrangements, for obvious reasons, vote the Democratic Party. I think that's a fair statement. And so people that are not totally true, but people that have the sense the Democratic Party will protect them and on and on. It's fair enough that some people are in that situation that are being abused. I would say that. But now, unfortunately, Harry, we've run around the clock, and we wanted to talk about the courts, but we got into immigration.
We got into immigration.
So I will leave the last comment for you now. So
well, I guess to bring it around to the courts, I think the fundamental issue reason why immigration I think is coming to the fore here is that this system depends on mutual respect for the legal system, right? The executive allowing the justice system to do its job, and the justice system respecting the executive branch's immigration priorities. That requires the justice system be allowed to engage in due process, because if you deny due process for one individual, whether they're here legally or not, whether they're a criminal or not, you don't have any rights as a citizen, because your citizenship status no longer matters. If you are willing to tell an undocumented person that just because I think you're undocumented, I'm going to ship you off to a prison in El Salvador without letting you have your day in court, then they can do that to anybody. They can do that to you. They can do that to me. If I speak Spanish fluently, and if I were speaking Spanish on the phone with somebody and an unmarked van pulled up on the side, I would be detained.
Well, just don't be out there cutting grass speaking Spanish. So I mean,
voy a intentar haz lo que mejor que puedo, pero the point is that the foundation of the judicial system rests on due process, and that's the fundamental stumbling block of this administration.
And that's worth another chat about this. So
yes.
Thank you for your wisdom today, Harry, and we'll talk some more.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.